Good morning, everyone. I'm Guy Rolnik. I'm a clinical professor here at Booth, and welcome to the eighth annual Antitrust and Competition Conference of the Stigler Center at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. First, I want to remind you, as Adam said, a friendly reminder that all of those speaking here today and tomorrow, to please disclose your potential conflict of interest. So over the past 7 years, this forum has become an important stage for rethinking antitrust. Ideas that first raised and debated here, well before they entered the policy mainstream, have helped reshape how we think about corporate power, market concentration, and the role of antitrust in a democratic society. Now, it's tempting to begin today with a sense of accomplishment. After all, the current administration has appointed leaders to the FTC and the DOJ who are each in their own unique way carrying forward many of the ideas that took place in this very room. These ideas have not only just endured, they have gained traction across political spectrum, which is quite a feat these days, and have begun to influence enforcement in real and maybe in lasting ways. But celebrating without a pause would risk complacency or worst, self-deception. Because even as these ideas have gained ground, the terrain beneath them is shifting rapidly. The foundations of our legal, regulatory, and democratic institutions, the very assumptions that undergird the liberal democracies, are now contested and rapidly changing. For more than 2 decades, scholars and institutions monitoring global democracy have warned of backsliding. Today, we are witnessing something more dramatic, a rapid unraveling. In some countries, it's a slow erosion. In others, it's a collapse. And here, some people are voicing concern that we may be approaching a constitutional crisis. So there are many competing narratives about how we got here. Rising inequality, political polarization, cultural fragmentation, disillusionments with complacent elites, or simply the passing of time since the last major global reckoning. But one crisis, I think, cuts across all of them, and this is the epistemic crisis. We no longer share a common base of facts. We no longer agree on truth. And increasingly, we are losing faith in the very institutions designed to pursue, protect, and disseminate those truths. Our courts, universities, media, and democratic processes themselves. Without a foundation of shared structures of knowledge, no system of law, no regulation, not even antitrust can endure. This is a moment of reflection. Many in this room have been early and consistent voices over the past 7 years in arguing that antitrust has never been just about price or consumer welfare. It has always been about liberty, democracy, and the dangers posed by concentrated power, economic, political, and increasingly informational. Over the past 3 or maybe 4 years, those ideas have found their way into power. Scholars and advocates like Lina Khan, Jonathan Kanter, and Tim Wu brought them into the government. They launched landmark lawsuits against big tech. They demanded structural remedies. They challenged deals that would have been rubber stamped just a few years ago. and they received an antitrust vocabulary that had long been forgotten. But today, the momentum feels both fragile and perhaps inadequate. The epistemic crisis has intensified. The world has grown more chaotic. And antitrust, once seen as a pillar of democratic renewal, now feels sometimes too narrow, too slow in the face of disinformation, polarization, and institutional breakdown. That's why a month ago, long before the last political flashpoints, we made at the Stigler Center here the decision to dedicate this year's conference to a broader and deeper theme, the information ecosystem and the fragile market of ideas. Not just markets, not just platforms, not just product monopolies, but the very infrastructure of democratic life, our shared truth, our shared narratives, and the growing threat of weaponized information in the age of algorithm. Today, here, much of the inquiry will focus on the news media, social media, and antitrust. Tomorrow, we will expand it into the entire market of ideas with focus on academia, lobbying, and the First Amendment. Now, we are not here to declare, of course, that antitrust is irrelevant. Far from it. In fact, the problem of concentrated economic power is more relevant than ever, especially given the unprecedented role the digital platform now playing shaping our politics and public discourse. But we must also acknowledge that antitrust alone may no longer be sufficient, perhaps not even central, to addressing the crisis we face now. The tools we may need could include rethinking media ownership rules, re-examining Section 230, regulating algorithmic amplification, or building entirely new institutional framework to constrain those platforms and restore accountability. What remains essential is the collective insight of this community, your deep understanding of power, how it's built, how it's maintained, and how it can be challenged in the public interest. Once again, we've brought together here, I hope like every year, people from across disciplines, perspectives, and sectors to foster an open and rigorous debate. Housekeeping, our keynote speaker for lunch, Thierry Breton, former European Commissioner for Internet, decided to cancel his participation this week, actually yesterday. And Breton, now with the Bank of America, wrote us that after another round of thorough evaluation and consultation, he decided that even virtually, his participation in the conference would not be appropriate at this time. Ironically, Breton maybe did us a favor because it opened up the space for an even better keynote speaker at this moment of great institutional uncertainty. So, as a globally respected scholar of constitutional law, democracy, and comparative institutions, Tom Ginsburg brings both intellectual rigor and moral clarity to the urgent questions of our time. How do democracies defend themselves when the public sphere is polluted by disinformation? How do courts, constitutions, and norms adapt or collapse when the marketplace of idea is overwhelmed by platforms, propaganda, and power? Professor Ginsburg's work bridges theory and practice, and his voice is essential as we navigate the erosion of truth, trust, and the institutional foundation of liberal democracy. These are unsettling times for liberal democracies around the world. Trust in institutions is at historic lows. Cynicism is widespread, but across the ideological spectrum, one thing is clear. The frameworks that brought us here will not get us out. If we need new ideas, this is the room to develop them. If we need new coalitions, this is the moment to imagine them. And if liberal democracy is to have a future, it will begin with rebuilding the information ecology that sustains it. So let us begin. Thank you.